This happened to me when I was young. Somewhere in between 5 to 7 years old. I was sleeping in between my parents. For whatever reason, I woke up. I remember the clock reading around 4 a.m. There was something standing by the window, looking out into the front yard. It looked like a man in a brown wool robe, about 6 feet 4 inches or so. I started to stir and sat up in bed, and the thing turned and looked at me. Extremely pale white skin, lots of really pronounced wrinkles, and the face drooped like it was melting, down into a really pointy chin. Almost similar to a scream mask but with all of the features of a living being. Its mouth was hanging open and its eyes were wide, almost like it was worried or frightened. It kept its gaze on me while it moved away from the window, in front of the bed, and out the open bedroom door. The second it exited the room, the lights turned on their own, and both of my parents jumped up on either side of me, breathing heavily like they'd both just woken up from a nightmare. To be clear, I was fully able to move during this. I don't think it was sleep paralysis, but I'm not sure what it could have been other than some kind of demon or really fucking ugly ghost. I've never seen it since, but I can still picture it clear as day. I lived in a haunted house with 3 roommates. They lived there for a couple of weeks before I did, and swore up and down that a young woman was haunting the house. One of them said they had some incense extinguished when they weren't home. Another one said they were feeling around in the dark, looking for a light switch, and felt the hair on the top of someone's head. Someone that wasn't there when the light came on. I, being a good and proper atheist, and knowing my roommates were kind of potheads, thought it was all bollocks and that they were paranoid. A month or so after I moved in, I was laying in bed when I heard a girl crying in the hallway. 2 of my roommates were girls, so I got up to do the requisite investigating and consoling. I opened my door to see who it was, only to discover that I was the only person home at that time. I'm still not a major believer in the supernatural, but I won't rule anything out now.
I was home last year during a break from university with a friend, and we decided to go see a friend in a different city in his university. It was a small city with river, hills, and forests. At night, we decided to go to a nearby forest to smoke and drink. I was drinking, while both of them were making joints and smoking. It was about 11 in the night, and dead dark with no lights or people for several kilometers. We had been standing there for about an hour. Then out of nowhere, a 26-year-old guy came out and says this place is not safe at night. My friend, who used to study there, heard me talking to someone and started walking towards me, but he stopped abruptly. His face went white, told me to get in the car, and that we are going. I told the guy thanks and goodbye and turned the car around. For 10 minutes, my friend didn't talk. Until when we were out of the forest. He broke his silence and told me that this guy who was talking to me was a boy from his university. He died on the same road 2 years back in an accident. We were so scared that we didn't go home that night, and spent the rest of the night getting high nearby a river.
Don't leave me. I need you. Where are you?
My dad was in the merchant navy for several years in the 70s. He has a ton of stories, but he said the weirdest time was when his ship was traveling through the Bermuda Triangle. They were traveling at a low rate of knots through the fog, and suddenly came across a small boat with 3 Far Eastern-looking men. The men were all standing to attention and saluting, but were not responding to my dad and the crew when they began shouting to see if they were okay. Not once did they move or shout back. My dad and the crew wanted to drop anchor and bring them in, thinking they were traumatized or at least spooked in some way. The captain didn't want to stop, and told the engine room to carry on, which didn't go down well with his crew. Apparently, the captain had to leave the ship when it reached port as the crew was on the verge of a mutiny. It hadn't been the first time he had made what everyone else thought to be a stupid or unexplainable decision.
When we were 10 years old, all of my cousins and siblings were playing hide and seek in the dark in the middle of a park. When someone gets found, you join the seeker to look for people, but you can't tell them where they are. I was a seeker, and I had just found one of my cousins, so we were walking around and looking for the rest. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw someone that looked exactly like my brother run past us at inhuman speed. I turned to look at my cousin, and he had admitted that he saw the same thing. We found my brother later in the round, but he was at the other side of the park. Nobody believes either of us, but both of us still remember it.